welcome. I'm just going to read my little spiel so we are on the record. This is the February 18th, 2021 Town of Concord Historic Districts Commission meeting. Can you all hear me all right? Okay. I've got these new headphones, which I don't understand how they work. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7 o'clock, just after. We have one continued public hearing this evening and two new public hearings, and then we have some additional business at the end of the meeting. So in accordance with the Commonwealth of Mass executive order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, we're conducting the meeting online. We can ensure access either through video conferencing or calls. But you will have opportunity to ask questions following the petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand either using the hand raise option in Zoom or just wave. You can also dial, I think, *9 if you're on the phone. Again, we'll mute microphones and we may need to turn cameras off to preserve bandwidth, but let's just wait and see what happens. Once I will call on the commissioners for comment and then open the meeting to public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I'll ask for a motion from the commission to continue, approve with conditions, or disapprove an applicant's petition. We'll get a second and I'll conduct a roll call vote. And once we've acted on your application, you are free to go. So why don't I start by doing a roll call of commissioners present for the record. So I'm just going to go in order on my screen. I see Nia.
Present.
Paul Ware.
Yes, here.
Catherine Mast.
Present.
Kate Chartner.
Present.
Melinda Shumway. Just Melinda waved, and Dennis Fiore, last but not least. And Jane is here from the select board. Thank you, Jane, for attending. All right, well, folks, why don't we get right to it? May I do that, Heather? Is there anything I should be announcing about, like, hurricane warnings or anything? Okay. So our first hearing is Elizabeth Morris is the applicant, 262 Lexington Road. This is to replace reconfigure a front side entry steps and to replace and reconfigure the front walkway and create a front entry garden. We had a site visit this morning. Thank you again, folks, for welcoming us out there. David, you look much different without a mask on, I will say. So David, the Kilos, am I pronouncing that correctly, were there, and Lily Morris is there and walked us through. Only a few of us showed up, which is a little unfortunate, but that's all right. We saw what we needed to see. So maybe, Lily, if I could ask this, Heather, would you mind just putting up the plan on the screen? And I don't know that we need a representation. I think you gave us a very nice tour this morning. I guess what I would see is I think we can go around and ask the commissioners for any final comment or questions to either the landscape architect or the owner.
We also submitted the package I gave you this morning.
Yes, and I don't have that.
But Heather has it, or I sent it to Heather, so she should be able to project it if necessary.
Okay. We also, I'll say for folks in the public here, we had a nice bit of research done by our own Dennis Fiore, who sent around some information. In fact, Dennis, maybe what I'll do is, why don't we put the plan up, Heather, the proposed plan, the landscape plan. And then Dennis, would you just kind of, you sent a photograph and then some text information, maybe just explain that to the group, but you have to unmute yourself.
There you go, right?
Yes.
The plan isn't up. Did you? Oh, here it comes.
There it is.
I think there was some thought about how a garden like this, which is somewhat formal, fits into Lexington Road and the American Mile. And I simply pointed out that that there is no one building type, one sort of front type along Lexington Road. It's evolved over a period of time, and that older houses on Lexington Road would not have had a lawn in front because that was valuable space and would have been used for producing food or herbs and eventually a cottage garden. So the idea of a grass, which is really a 20th century concept in America for the average family, would not have been in a front yard. And briefly, I was comparing 54 Lexington Road, which has supposedly a reconstructed garden of the 1830s in front of it, which is not exactly like this garden by any means, but it has the same formality with a central walk, a crossing walk with a bench, and then 4 quadrants with planting with a shrub in the middle of each one. So I was just trying to establish some base for decision-making based on historic precedents. The other house I mentioned, and I realized it has a much shallower front yard, of course, is the stone one. It's the sort of kitty corner across the granite block one from the house at 54. And that has actually quite a formal front yard. I lived in that house for a while. So that fountain that is there, and it had a cottage garden when I was there, has been there for quite a while. I can't tell you how long. So this idea of a formality is very much, I think, in keeping. I'm not saying this exact garden. I'm just saying the concept of a front garden like this is something that's very much a part of a traditional landscape of a house. Even though this is 1993, it is a house that's trying to look like a Greek revival.
Thank you, Dennis. I thought that was very valuable research. Now, Lily, do you walk us through the things you handed out this morning? I saw them. I know Melinda and Catherine and Nia saw them. Heather, is that easy to put up again? Sorry to make you jump around so much.
So if we could start with the Google Earth photo of just, for those that were concerned about the amount of paving, that shows the relationship of the front yard to the rest of the property, that would be great.
Nothing like putting Heather on the spot.
Sorry, Heather.
Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. I have it here. Well, actually, I don't have it here. What am I saying? I don't have it scanned.
She can't hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes. All right, just bear with us for a minute here.
There we go.
Okay.
There it is.
So just, I know there was a little concern last time about the amount of paving in the front yard, which if you went to the site and saw all the gardens marked out, which David did a great job marking out the plan. It's a very, very small portion of the total property, and the entire backyard is all, none of it's hardscape, it's all lawn and wetland. And the front yard is really quite small. And the quarter scale plan that which is where my plan is at quarter scale, makes, I think, the brick look bigger than it is. They're 4 foot and 3 foot wide walks, which are not terribly wide walks, but wide enough that somebody can walk safely around. And as David and Sandra moved here from Seattle and have retired here, they are looking ahead towards, it's wide enough for a walker to get around the garden. So that's the purpose of this drawing. And then we can just scroll through they're not precedents in Concord, but they are colonial gardens that show, the geometry and paths, and that this is not, I think a lot of the lawns on Lexington Road, while they may look lovely, they're not necessarily that historic. So I think we're not breaking the mold with this plan. You know, brick paths in a pattern. The geometric, again, brick with flowers and beds, which is kind of our, you know, it's basically the concept of this entry garden. This is probably a little bit more like it. The boxwood hedges will be quite a bit lower for the squares. This is, and then again, I mean, ours is slightly different. It's a very small, narrow space. So we've done 2 beds, not multiple beds, but again, there's a lot of historic precedent for a front entry garden like this.
All right. Thank you, Lily. And Heather, may I ask, sorry, one more time to put the proposed plan up? That would be great. So Dennis, thank you for that background. I think what I'd like to do is go around and just hear from commissioners based on the site visit this morning and then any last thoughts. And by the way, the voting members tonight will be, beside me, Nia, Paul, I'm looking to see who's here. Nia, Paul, Melinda. Luis is not here, is he? Melinda, and we need one more then, correct? How about Catherine? Would you like to vote tonight? Okay, sure. Catherine will be our 5th. Okay. So let's, I'll start with you, Catherine. Actually, you're first on my screen. Any thoughts, comments, reflections?
I do think it was really helpful to see the site and, you know, especially just the proportions of the gardens proposed, and, you know, that in conjunction with, you know, the great and very helpful research done. I really felt very comfortable with what is being proposed. I think it's going to be lovely and charming. And, you know, I am very happy to know about, you know, all of the historical precedents that we can point to support it. So I have absolutely no issue with what is being proposed here.
All right, thank you. Nia, you are next on my list.
I agree with Catherine that it was exceedingly helpful to see the space staked out. And I know that can't have been easy in that amount of snow. And I also agree with Lily's point that the plan itself makes the brick walkways look more aggressive, if you will, than I think the reality. I think it will be totally appropriate. I have not changed my view, and I think it's great.
Thank you, Nia. Dennis.
Well, I had most of my say already, so I
Good.
think it's perfect. I think it's perfectly fine. I have no problems with it.
All right, thank you, sir. Paul.
Yeah, I don't have the benefit of the official site visit today because I'm not in town, but I really defer to my colleagues on this. I understand the historical precedent. I'm not a big fan of this look, but that's irrelevant because that's not the judgment we're being asked to make. So for what it is, I think it's fine, and I'm going to defer to the judgment of my colleagues.
Thank you, sir. Melinda, you have to unmute yourself though. There you go.
So I was very pleasantly surprised by the site visit today. My concerns vanished. The scale looked different to me, and I think it'll be fine.
Thank you, ma'am. Kate. Can't hear you. No, not yet.
Now?
There you go. Yep. There
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was on a 8 a.m. call this morning, so I drove past afterwards with my plan to see, you know, what it would look like. And I thought Dennis's insight was helpful, and I think it'll be a good addition to the historic district. I have no objections.
All right, thank you, folks. I think I have nothing useful to add. I think it'll be a fine addition to Lexington Road. So why don't I open it up to public comment? Is there any public comment on the proposed work at 262 Lexington Road as described? So I'm just looking around the gallery. I don't see anybody waving at me. Heather, is anyone desperately trying to phone in? No?
I don't see anyone.
All right. Well, with that, then I think I would look for a motion from the commission.
I move that we approve the application for 262 Lexington Road to replace and reconfigure front and side entry steps, replace and reconfigure front walkway, and create a front entry garden as proposed.
And can I get a second on that?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. I'm just going to go around. All in favor, Catherine,
Aye.
Nia,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and Dennis.
Aye.
And I'm an aye too, so it is unanimous. You are approved. Thank you again for staking it out in the snow, and no guilt on anybody who couldn't make the site visit this morning. There are always extenuating circumstances, but thank you again, Lily and Kilos, for doing what you said you'd do, and good luck with the construction whenever
you.
it can start. All right, you are free to go. So thank you. That's our only continued public hearing. So we're moving along nicely. It's 7:21 and we're only 20 minutes behind. I'm just kidding. All right, so we have a new public hearing, the Shattuck Architects, 25 Lowell Road. This is to replace existing windows, install a new window, and reverse the front door swing. And I'm not sure who's presenting from the Shattuck. Oh, hello, Anita.
I am Anita Rogers. It's just Beth's project, but he couldn't make it tonight, so I'm subbing in.
All right. Would you mind, maybe Heather, if you put up the application, just walking us through for those who haven't had a chance to look at it, and maybe for the public?
In a nutshell, it's the addition of a single window of similar size to the existing other
So-
4 windows.
And
to the
this
right.
that's the existing, correct?
That's the
This is-
existing,
Mhm.
right?
And here's the proposed.
And the change is a proposed new double hung to the right of the door. And also that the 2 double hungs that are to the right of that one would have textured glass in their lower sash. Apparently that was approved some time ago by the HDC, but was never implemented. And now at this point, Mr. Burgess would like to do that as well. And as part of this project, there'll be the swing of the front door will be reversed, which will have no effect on the appearance. It'll be the same door, just rehung with the same hardware, just flipped.
All right. The only question I would have is about the windows. Now, in the package, I think if we scroll up, the window cut sheets are all in there, correct? These are
Correct. They're Marvin
Ultimate
double hung clad, stone white clad.
and they're 1/1, right? So there's no even divided lights. There's nothing.
That's right. There aren't any in the house. No, that
And
cut
there's the
sheet
glass.
had, the screen cut sheet had a 6 light sash, but that's not, that's the glass.
And is that screen available in the sort of Invisi-Mesh?
That is the charcoal
That is
fiberglass, that,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
The minimally visible mesh.
Terrific. All right, I'm going to stop talking and ask the commissioners to weigh in. Thank you, Anita. Catherine, may I ask you first what you think?
I have no objections at all to the proposed replacements and changes. I think it'll be fine.
Alrighty, Nia.
I just wanted to ask one question for clarification. Am I right that the new window will not have the textured glass on the bottom half, and the ones to the right of the two to the right of that will have textured glass?
That's the proposal. The two to the right are in a bath area, and the one next to the door is in the front hall. So yes, the pair would be different from the one by the door in terms of the glass.
And the window next to the door, that is recessed relative to the windows that are to the right, the bath windows.
Correct.
Thank you.
That shed roof comes forward.
That's, I just, okay, I have no
Okay.
problem with this. Thank you.
Dennis.
I don't know. The only question I had, I just wanted to make sure I heard correctly. The window that you're replacing beside the door is exactly the same window, only a new one. I mean, it's not, you're not changing the look of it at all.
There is currently no window alongside the door. But
Oh,
the
I see.
window-
Okay. I was looking at the wrong one. Okay.
All
I have no problem.
all of the windows on this elevation are the same size, and so that's what I meant by the same.
Okay. I have no problem then.
There'll be 5 instead of 4.
Thank you, Dennis. Paul, you are next.
I have no questions and no concerns. But, well, out of curiosity, can you actually see the difference? And can you identify the fact that there's textured glass from the streetscape?
I don't think
I mean-
when the screens are on, the house currently has full screens, and full screens would, I think you definitely wouldn't. And also, I think it's more about the reflection. So depending on whether or not there's a window treatment behind it, would also affect how it would appear.
Yeah. Okay. I have no questions, no concerns.
Thank you, Paul. Melinda.
I'm fine with this.
All right, you get the award for brevity tonight. Kate.
I'm fine with this too.
Well, it wasn't as short. That was 6 words.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. I don't think any other commissioners are here, so why don't I open it up to public comment? Is there any public comment on the proposed work at 25 Lowell Road? I'm going to look around the very small gallery. Heather, is anyone calling in from near or far? All right, then I would look for a motion from the commission, please.
I move that we approve the application for 25 Lowell Road to replace existing windows, install new window, and reverse front door swing as submitted.
Second.
And a second, thank you. Well, I'll just go around. I'll say, how will you vote, commission? Catherine,
Aye.
Mia,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
and Paul.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So it's unanimous. You are approved and good to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anita.
Good night.
Good luck. Good
Aye.
night. All right, moving right along, we have Stan Black. Hello, Stan. This is some work at 100 Kais Road, units 204 and 206 in the Main Street District to replace some of those existing plywood panels with windows. And I think we have a couple of images. I'm familiar with the building. I've actually gone by it I don't know how many times, endless times. And maybe Heather, if you wouldn't mind putting the application up, and Stan could just kind of quickly walk us through it.
Well, Peter, thank you. Beth Humstone, my partner in life and all things, and I have fortuitously bought
Hey, Beth.
2 adjacent units at 100 Kais Road with the idea of joining them together. That turned out to be a legal difficulty that we couldn't surpass. So we're gonna keep both of these units to ourselves and use them, but and in order to improve them, we'd like to take out this site plan here that Heather just went by. Yeah, shows that we have the 2 units on the, pointing here.
Oh, there it is.
2
Yeah.
units on the left end of
You
the
said site plans. You want
the
them
site
set up.
plan. 2 units on the left end. And if you
Mhm.
go to the next slide, Heather, please, you can see that the existing conditions show, for some reason, they put plywood panels in what we imagine was, when this was the Hawthorne Girls' School or whatever it was called, um, it was all glazed. They put these plywood panels up to minimize the amount of glazing probably in the bedrooms. We like glazing. So our idea is to take out the 4 plywood panels that are right in the middle of that photograph and replace them with glass that has been done elsewhere in the building in some other spots. So if Heather, you will show us the next slide, you'll see what it will look like if we change it. Those are existing conditions. Here's the proposed condition, photoshopped.
Convincingly, I must say.
Yeah, I thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is I'm for hire, as a matter of fact.
Same low rate.
At the same low rate that I've always worked at. That's right. And if you go to the last slide, Heather, please, you will see an existing window that has been done before. And this may have been done when I was on your commission many years ago. And our intention is to match the details of what has been done in the past there.
All right, seems pretty straightforward to me. Is there, I don't remember the package, Stan. Is there detail on the, do you have to draw this from scratch, or are there existing?
Yeah, no, this
windows?
is not a factory window. This is
Right.
thermopane specially made for this condition. And at some point, I have tenants, Beth and I have tenants in these 2 apartments, so we haven't been able to get in there and measure it carefully and look at the existing conditions of the ones that have been renovated, but that will follow when they leave at the end of February, and we will, create new windows that look exactly like that one that I'm indicating here.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, so why don't I go around to the commission? Thank you, Stan, for that presentation. Catherine.
I guess my,
Oh, you muted yourself there.
um,
There you go.
my only question would be, and just in terms of consistency of the facade, in terms of, where the plywood panels are still going to remain. I'm assuming that that would just be up to, the individual inhabitants of the units to decide or not to go with the glazing. In other words, I understand that that whole middle level would be glazed versus the paneling, but then it would still leave us with the plywood panels on the top floor. Is that correct?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't own the whole building, but we can consistently make that our section of the building, which is the middle floor, half the length of the middle floor, consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps that will be a suggestion to others.
Yes, I mean, I think ideally it would be lovely to see, all of the buildings facade be consistent in that way. But, I have no inherent objection at all to, replacing the plywood with the glazing, which definitely feels like an improvement.
I would add, Catherine, that we have already been through one hurdle, and that was the Board of Governors at Milldam Square, who have approved our changes. So,
yep.
But every individual owner has to go through this process.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Paul.
I have no questions, no concerns. I mean, that even now there's inconsistency. So I don't see that as an issue one way or the other. And I think the glazing will be fine. So I have no issue with it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Paul.
Dennis.
I agree with Paul. There is already inconsistency, and actually this will make it somewhat more consistent. So I'm fine with it.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dennis.
sir. Nia.
I think during my tenure on this commission, I think we've had at least 2 applications come before us that we've passed for this exact same thing. I have absolutely no problem with it. And I think obviously the glazed windows are far more attractive than the wood panels. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Melinda. Thank you, Nia.
So I've been in a number of these units, and the ones with the wood panels, honestly, I've always thought it was bizarre. And so to me, they can't get rid of these fast enough in that building. And I assume that as people see how lovely it is when they go into the ones with, so much more light, that they will all at some point be replaced. But the more the merrier, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Melinda. And Kate, last but not least.
I think it will look fine. I have no objections, and I just want to say hi to Stan. I
Hi,
miss you.
Kate.
Hi.
That's it, Kate?
That's it. I gave a thumbs up.
All right, thank you. All right, my only comment is what's going to happen to the plywood, because they could probably use those for like knife throwing practice at like 4th of July or something. I'm just kidding. All right.
Well, there's something that we'll get together and we'll think of something to do with it if you
Yeah, see, I don't throw anything away. Those would go in my garage, and my wife can
You can
overhear
have
me.
them.
No,
Come
see,
over.
my wife can overhear me. I take that back. All right, I think we've heard from commissioners, so why don't I open it up to public comment? I think there are a couple of folks here from the public. Is there any public comment on the work at 100 Kais Road as proposed? I think there's none. Heather, anybody trying to call in? Nope. All right, so how about a motion from someone, please?
I move that we approve the application for certificate of appropriateness with respect to 100 Kais Road units 204 and 206 to replace the existing panels with glazing, that is windows.
Nia just seconded it. And the only thing I'd add, I think the application says to match adjacent or to match.
There's an existing condition there that we will match, Peter.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think we're ready to vote. We've had a motion and a second. Catherine.
Aye.
Aye. Nia.
Aye.
Kate.
Aye.
Melinda.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Dennis.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. This is the only place you get to say aye all week long. Let's face it. It makes me feel very old fashioned. All right, Stan, and tell me, I'm sorry, what is your part? Beth, Stan and Beth, thank you. You're approved and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks very much, Commission.
All right,
Yep.
you're welcome.
You're
Nice
welcome.
to see you.
Thank you.
Cheerio.
See you sometime soon, we hope. All right, that is our last public hearing. So we have some additional business, some other business. I think maybe we want to go through 51 Lang Street first. Heather, I see Matt and Jenny are here, yes?
Hi, we're here. We're back.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
Did you miss us? That's the
They're
question.
back.
Well, we're hoping you come to every meeting.
I mean, that's the goal. That's the goal.
We need somebody in the gallery. Heather, would you mind putting up the notes we got from Jenny? These are some modifications to the proposed little shed addition. We understand, Jenny, tell us again that something hadn't come in yet. Was it the pool equipment?
Yeah, so the pool equipment elevation, we still owe you. We're waiting on it from the environmental pool still. And then we also have the fencing company at some point will come out when the weather is clear, and we'll put together a more formal like view of the fencing with the elevation of the equipment. So that's still TBD.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so this is really just about the shed because as you know, we couldn't put the pool equipment back there anymore. And so we had already purchased the doors after we received approval from you all. We felt like we were good to go. So we purchased the doors. And the doors on the front are fine. They're not going to change because the front of the structure isn't going to change. But on the back, we now want to move those doors, which are 5-foot doors, to the side and have the access point over there so that we can plant behind. We don't need access from the back anymore because we're not going to put, I guess we could have done this from the get-go anyways, but we had already purchased those 5-foot doors. So we want to move them to the side. And in order to do that, we have to increase the width of that back portion about a foot, which will then push the front of the shed forward about a foot. I didn't explain that very well, but.
No, I think you did. And I think it actually shows up better on the next drawings, which are actually elevations.
Yeah.
And this actually shows proposed and new.
So this is the original, yeah. So this is just what the front. So the only change that you'll see from the street will be that it will be 12 inches. It was 3 feet 4 inches from the offset from the front of the garage, and now it will be 2 feet 4 inches. This is the east side elevation. So you can see here where it will just extend a foot on the left side to add the doors. The window, the front portion is remaining the same. It's just going to shift forward.
All right. And maybe go to the next.
And then on the next one, so this is the back. It will just be plain back there. And we're going to plant behind it for additional screening.
All right. I feel like they're fairly straightforward modifications, but let's just, so what we're looking for as a commission is just an approval for these modifications to the original application. So let me go around. Catherine, do you have any questions?
I don't think so. I think it looks fine.
All right, Paul.
Me, what the east elevation faces, where you're moving the doors to the east elevation. What is that face? I just don't remember.
Yeah, it's just the neighbor. It's the neighboring property. It's not
with the trees we were talking about.
Yeah, that's the side. Yep. But this is way in the back. So that side's not visible from the street.
Okay. Do the doors potentially impact the neighbor in any different way?
No, I think they probably improve for the neighbors behind us because there'll be trees there. And this is pretty set back, and we have a lot of planting along the border of the property, and we'll actually, hopefully now that we have the pool, be making that even more private with greenery. So it won't impact the neighbors on that side.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Dennis, any questions?
No questions, it's fine.
Thank you. Mia?
Absolutely fine.
All right, thank you. Melinda?
Just fine.
And Kate? Thank you, Melinda.
That's fine.
God, you guys are all going for the brevity thing, but, you know. and it's fine with me as well. So my only question is, and this is more a question for Heather, do we need to have this formally resubmitted in any way, or can we just put this in the file as is?
You'll just need to make a motion tonight to accept these changes, and then
Okay.
We'll go in the file.
Okay, I think we have one, so we've heard from the commission, we have one member from the public here. Is there any public comment on these changes to the work at 51 Lang Street? I don't see any, and Jane is not raising her hand. So I'd look for a motion from the commission here.
I move that we approve the amendment to the certificate for 51 Lang Street as submitted.
Second.
All right, and let's go around for a roll call vote. Catherine,
I approve it.
Nia,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Melinda, Paul,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. So you're all set. Jane,
Thank you.
thank you. And Heather, thanks.
See you in
for-
2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll be, we'll
Yeah,
be here.
That's right. Same time,
right.
same place.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, and let's see, what is next on our agenda? I've lost my agenda. We have 325 Main Street. Is this a certificate
This is
amendment as well,
another
Heather?
amendment. Yep, this is Mark Carbo.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, folks. Yes.
I don't have, is there material here, Heather? I don't.
No. There is no, Mark will explain.
Oh, Mark, could you explain to us?
Sure, I had sent an email only. So hello, everybody. We've been making diligent progress on the renovation and are mostly having fun. I think there's been some structural challenges that we've addressed. I'm now at a phase where we're starting to work on the exterior details, and our original commitment to the house has been to use similar materials in anything we replace. And I'd like to explain to you and seek your support to switch some of the trim materials to be AZAC. What we've been working on is on the eaves and the molding details that are around the eave and the soffit and fascia. In trying to simulate those, we've had some sourcing issues. The pine that we're able to get, my builder feels is an inferior pine now. The southern yellow pine is a faster growing pine, and when they do their routering to get one of the shadow line details, it's actually not consistent, and anyway, it's not holding up real well. Mm-hmm. So in the spirit of integrity and durability, we would like to switch to AZAC for the soffit and fascia and those molding details as we reproduce them. So again, simulate the same appearance. We would still prime the material. We would still paint the material, but the core underneath, instead of being pine, would be AZAC. The remaining materials would still be original. So we would replace the clapboard with cedar clapboard. We're continuing to want to refinish the front door, so it will be the original front door and the front door hardware. So this is really specific to the moldings associated with the soffit and fascia.
All right, thank you, Mark. And by the way, it's coming along nicely. I've seen it, the poor thing stripped down to its underwear, but it's amazing to see that old substrate.
It's really remarkable to see the construction that was used and the integrity of all of there's not very many nails. It's a lot of mortise and tenon, and there's pins and pegs. It's pretty cool.
Okay. I personally don't have any issue with the composite materials, especially because they end up looking like wood and they improve the long-term performance of buildings. Why don't I just go around and see if the commissioners have any particular comments? Catherine, any thoughts?
I guess I would simply ask, just for my own edification, what sort of precedence there has been in the past with regard to replacing wood with the composite. I mean, I definitely agree that from a durability perspective, especially if we know all those pieces are going to be painted, that I don't have any inherent problem, but just more curious.
I don't know that we have a particular,
that we have a
somebody's
particular-
giving me an echo. I think I'm hearing myself echo there. I don't think we have a formal, in fact, I'm not even sure if there's a section in our guidelines about composite materials. I mean, the reality is we accept composite materials all the time in window systems. There are composite pavers. Sometimes we have composite shingles. What am I trying to say? Slate. So I think generally it's case by case. I think in this case, if we're matching a profile, if it looks essentially like wood, then it's really the material is the issue, and we're not that purist in our kind of approvals, I think.
Yeah, in that case, I have no issue with it.
Okay, thank you. Nia, any comments?
Yes, we have definitely approved materials like AZAC, and I think it makes total sense here. I am comfortable with it being painted and looking just like wood, so I have no issue.
Thank you, Nia. Kate, any thoughts?
No, my questions were the same as Catherine's.
Okay. Thank you. Melinda.
I'm with it.
Thank you. And Paul.
No questions. I think AZEC is a great material, and I have no issue with it.
Okay, and Dennis.
Having just spent a small fortune over the whole summer replacing Southern Pine windows in my house that are 30 years old, I'm very sympathetic and I have no problem whatsoever.
All right. And Mark, the only thing I would just suggest is that sometimes the material moves differently than wood. So if it's adjacent to a different material, just let the builder be careful about, expansion,
Okay.
especially in the long plane. AZAC, I think, is this right, Catherine? Doesn't AZAC expand at a different rate than wood? There's something about the way it expands in the horizontal plane in hot weather.
Definitely.
Anyway, it's just something to
More
keep an eye
stable.
on.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll alert our carpenters and learn what we need to do there.
Okay. Other than that, I have no objections. Do we need to vote, Heather?
Yes, please.
All right, so somebody just has to make a motion to approve this change.
I move that we approve the amendment to the certificate for 325 Main Street to substitute AZAC for the fascia and soffits in lieu of Southern Pine.
And a second. Thank
I'll
you,
second.
Melinda. All in favor, or I'll just go around. Catherine,
Aye.
Nia,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Melinda,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Dennis,
Aye.
and I'm an aye too. All right, thank you, Mark.
Great.
Looking
thank you
great.
all.
Looking great. We look forward to even more exciting progress.
Yeah, it'll start to look better now. We're getting to the external side. So thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you. All right, I think, let's see, we have the other things on the agenda are minutes and, well, why don't we go through the Jenny Dugan. So thank you all for submitting comments. I got a few comments back on that letter. I think it's ready to go out. Just to keep things going, we're kind of putting the ball back in the neighborhood's court to say, here's what we heard. So Heather, I think you said that could potentially go next week.
Yep.
Okay, is there any last thought? Thank you again for your comments, especially Paul, yours, and Nia's. Dennis also reviewed it, so I think we're okay. So let's see where that goes, and one step at a time. The expansion of the Main Street district, I have to do a presentation. What's today? Next Saturday, there's the town meeting preview. I have to do a 30-second summation of the warrant article. And Heather, it's pretty short, right? It's just, I guess I should be ready to answer questions. Dennis did bring up the issue of, and I actually think this is a really good point, that we're sort of, it's a little bit of a slippery slope to start doing these kind of one property additions, you know, what is historic, what's not. So I actually think this one doesn't concern me as much, these two properties, but I do think it's a good time to relook at our mandate and our guidelines. So I'm getting an echo, sorry. I think what I'd like to do is, I think we could email it to all the commissioners, Heather, the HDC, I guess it's the charter, or I forget if it's a mandate or a charter. And then I think our guidelines, I think we should actually just start to take, let's say 10 minutes at the end of every meeting for, I don't know, 4 or 5 meetings. And let's just review what we've got. Because I have to say, I'm not always entirely familiar with, you know, the intent of our guidelines and so forth. And I think it's probably a good idea to remind us, because we've started to have some internal debate now with whether it's Jenny Dugan or Main Street now, like what does historic mean? What does, you know, we're getting into kind of opinion land, and that's always hazardous. Dennis, did you have any other, did I just butcher that thought, or did you have any other thought along?
No, I just think as we make these decisions about adding to the historic districts, frankly, I wish there was another phrase for historic or another word for historic, because it really isn't preserving historic districts so much as historic properties as it is to preserve a certain feel, a certain volume, a certain mass, a certain look that I think is, I'm not using the right words, but that's important, rather than the history of the properties themselves. So I think it's good to sort of refocus on that, and as we make these decisions, and to take a look at what we're really about and what we're doing, which isn't so much preserving historic properties in the sort of antiquarian sense.
Right, and I think Paul raised some very good points. You know, Dugan discussions. You know, Luis has always got something to weigh in on. I don't see him this evening, but so I think it's a good idea to just kind of reread that stuff every once in a while and refamiliarize ourselves. In the very short term, though, I think I don't have any particularly strong objections or feelings about this expansion to the Main Street district, unless any of you do. But at this point, I'm on the hook to give a quick summary at the town meeting preview. Is there anything you'd like me to say? Most people will be looking at their watches and saying, when are we going to get to the exciting articles? Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that and report back.
Peter, are they asking you if you are supportive of this or not? I mean, what's at this point?
No,
if the commission's supporting it or not?
I don't think so. I'm just going to look at the warrant article. It doesn't say whether all I'm doing is essentially reading the article and saying what it is. And I honestly, it's actually a good question. If somebody asked, does the HTC support this article? I think I would say we neither. I can neither confirm nor deny. We don't. I mean, we see what it is. We're being asked to include this in one of our districts. Therefore, let's see what the town thinks. I mean, in other words, I think Paul's made a very good caution that we really shouldn't be advocating for expanding or creating districts, but if districts want to be created by people in the town, or then we just say, okay, well, you know, here's how it works. So in other words, I think if somebody were to ask me, I would say, I don't support or not support this. I acknowledge that it's happening. Paul.
It just seems to me that that's a difficult position for you to take if asked, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't have an answer for that, because I think this remains a question for us, whether we're going to get behind a particular expansion or not, and why. But if you're proffering this article, I mean, it's coming from the HTC as its sponsor. Is that how? I've forgotten the procedural hook here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure how that all works.
Well, Heather, I think it is prepared by the HDC, but what it
I mean, I
says is,
think implicit in that is that we agree with it and support it. It may not be explicit, but I think any ordinary reader, listener, whatever, would assume that we're behind it, or you wouldn't be standing up there summarizing it. So I don't think we can duck that issue.
I would
It's a good
agree.
point.
Peter, Peter, did you ever get, sorry, I should raise my hand.
That's
Peter, did
okay.
you ever get it clarified with the planning board? Because isn't the planning board the proposer of historic districts changes and things?
Well, that's a good question. Did anyone attend that meeting last week? I think Luis might have gone. He's not here tonight. Heather, you had asked me a clarification about that, right?
I was kind of unsure what the question that you guys were looking for. So I talked to Elizabeth Hughes again, and any of like the sort of bylaw changes and that sort of thing goes through the planning board. So they have to recommend to town meeting either way, whether to, go with this. So you'll be giving a presentation to the planning board, and then they will then recommend to town meeting.
And Elizabeth just wrote to me and asked me if I would do this. So I guess implicit in that is that she thinks, there's no issue with the planning board. And so I think we're a little bit between a rock and a hard place, because at the outset, we didn't say to these two homeowners, oh, hang on a sec, we've got to be clearer about our mandate. We sort of let it go down the road far enough now that they're both expecting that we'll expand the district. So at this point in time, I feel like I'm less concerned about setting a precedent and more concerned about, stopping and saying, wait a second, let's not keep doing this sort of death by 1,000 cuts thing, district by 1,000 property additions. I do think it's time to pull back and have a clear idea. If we're approached by another home on the edge of a district, what's our process? We haven't been clear. And then if we go back to the town to have everybody spend their time on a warrant article, are we sponsoring it? If we are, then we should be clear about it. I agree. But in the short term, again, I think, I don't think it's worth pulling this from the warrant article, from the warrant at the moment, unless any of you really are strongly objecting to it. Or if you want to come with me to the presentation, and then I'm just going to turn to you and say, Paul, would you please explain what I was trying to?
So I'm schizophrenic on this, because on the one hand, I understand the practical problem. We're kind of far down the road. And so I guess from the point of view of looking more stupid than we actually are, maybe we let this one ride. But I do think it's bad policy. I mean, it just troubles me that as a commission, we don't really have our act together on this. And I don't fault anybody for that. This kind of sneaks up on us, but it does seem to me we ought to have a reasoned methodology for how we go about considering these things and whether or not we in fact support them, because I think down the road you'll be asked, does the HCC support this? Or,
we've also started to do this kind of patchwork,
save
the house.
Problematic. Yeah, I agree. I think that's problematic.
So I think it is about time, and I Frank, I thank both of you for pointing out that we should really just sort of take a deep breath and step back. Because of course I went back and started looking at the precedents and the mandate and all, and there's stuff from the 70s and the 80s, and some stuff's been updated in the 2000s. And it needs to be a kind of just put under a new umbrella of, okay, we reviewed, even if it's a memo to file, we reviewed our guidelines and mandate in 2021 and have the following additions and clarifications to our guidelines. There's nothing saying we can't do that right now. Because if I'm correct, Heather, we don't have to, that doesn't have to go to town meeting, right?
No, I don't.
If we modify our guidelines, it just has to
No,
be
we
approved
just
by.
modify and we pass them.
Yeah.
Right.
So
When were the last ones done? Was that 14?
I believe it was 15.
15?
Yeah,
'Cause
August of 15.
I remember doing those.
So 6 years ago. That was right
Um,
before what was that? Do you remember what those
Oh, it was
updates were?
major. It was
Oh.
major.
Oh, it took forever. It went on
It
for
did. I
months
mean,
and months and months.
a year at least.
Oh,
And we did a lot on that.
okay.
But Nia, I'm remembering that was really focused on clarifying the rules and regulations for homeowners for the most part, and what can you do and not do. I'm not sure we really took a hard look at this part at all.
No, I agree. This
Yeah.
thing we didn't touch. So that
we really didn't look at it.
I view this as a completely separate issue.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think
But certainly
I think
both need to be addressed.
yeah, we could look at that. There are a few things. I've got a list going. Signage is another one that we've talked about updating it. We haven't yet. Windows. I've been asked, by the way, Dennis, I just wanted to see what you thought. I've been asked by the town of Hingham, their historic district commissioner reached out to Elizabeth and would like to talk to us about historic window resources. So we have some, but the link in our guides is a dead link. So if you see these historic window resources, it says, sorry, this link is broken. So that's the kind of thing I think we could fix in the short term. I'm going to have a discussion with Catherine down in Hingham. But anyway, and I don't want this to go on for months unless we wanted to, but there were really, 3-4 areas where this being the most critical one, because here we've got another district in the ether potentially. And I think this has come up enough times that I think the large project review is another thing. So I've got a list of things, but why don't we at least start by refamiliarizing ourselves with what we've got? Paul.
Yeah, so sorry to talk again, but
Oh,
with respect to 21 and 31 Thoreau, what's the imperative for this year? I mean, is there, what difference does it make whether it's 2021 or 2022? Because if it makes zero difference, and we're just talking about the cosmetics here, then why not defer it and rationalize this policy so that at least we understand it and are behind a sort of process by which we evaluate these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think if the homeowners I don't want to cause a major problem here, but if it's a matter of great indifference, whether this happens now or it happens a year from now, then I would think we ought to pull back on this and get it right. Try and set a process and understand why. If it's more troublesome than that for these families in particular, then I'm okay with let's just damn the torpedoes, but again, it troubles me that we're sort of drifting on the tide here. And in general, it seems to me that's fraught with potential obstacles.
Well, yeah, eventually we're going to hit some rocks.
Yeah, I agree with Paul on that. If there's no rush on this, we ought to at least have some rationale for supporting this, and rather, and really review this with some substance behind it, to make sure that we're consistent and that we really know what we're doing.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, go ahead, Nia.
I agree with both Paul and Dennis. My only question is will we have misled the owners of these two properties? I'm not clear on what their expectations are. And I know, obviously all our members have not dealt with them directly, and perhaps Peter, you can you or Heather can comment on that. I mean, I think we have to be careful not to have misled them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
if
think-
we've sort of led them to believe
Yeah.
that we're behind
Sure.
it, we're going to propose it, and then we pull the rug out, I think that's sort of unfair.
Well, I think what I'd like to do is, let me see if I can suggest something. I'd like to compose an email, or I could do it by phone too, but to each of these property owners to just, I think what Paul said is right. Let's see if there's no strong objection from them to punt for a year, then I think I would beg their indulgence to say, look, the reality is we don't have a clear guideline here, and we'd like to be clearer before we go to the town to ask for the expansion of the district. Is there any, would you strongly object? I mean, the thing is that I think what their motive is probably they just want to protect their properties from, you know, McMansionization. I don't know what their motivation is, but I think if someone said, "Oh no, I'm really worried," then I think we, as you say, Paul, we damn the torpedoes and just see what the town says. But going forward, I think we should be much clearer about what we're doing. So Heather, does that, I don't want to like muck up protocol too much, but I don't see the harm in writing each of these homeowners a note. Does that make sense what I just said, everybody? I mean, basically asking them, you know, can you defer a year? It's not that we are saying no, just suddenly realizing our goals are a little misaligned. Heather,
Sounds
what do you
good.
think?
I think that's okay. You have 2 more meetings before the warrant closes
Okay.
to make your decision on this. So you have time to send out those letters and make a decision.
Oh, that's right. Do we have, so I can't, does it have to be a physical letter? I don't
No, you could,
remember.
I think you can
I can
email it.
email?
They
Okay.
emailed one of the homeowners. sent
Because
us-
I could do that, you know, this weekend for sure.
Okay.
And if you all want, I could pass you the draft just to see if you have any comments.
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
let's try that, because I do really think there's, you know, there is as Paul says, a hazard in drifting, not to use too many sailing analogies. Eventually we're going to hit the rocks, right? The tide's going to carry us and we're going to bump into something. So, all right, that's that piece of business. How about minutes? I think that's the last thing on our agenda here. There were a lot of comments on the minutes from the 4th. Heather, was there a final version, or what do you think?
I had sent that out on Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the revised version.
And
And
there
how
are
did that? Yeah,
the
go ahead.
November ones that are still incomplete, so you didn't actually get those.
Okay, how did folks feel about the minutes on the 4th? I'm looking to the folks who made comments. Did those revised minutes pass muster?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I guess if no one objects, why don't we accept at least those into the record? We just need a motion to do that.
I move that we accept the minutes of February 4th,
February 4th.
2021 into the record as currently drafted.
And a second? Nia, I'm just going to go around vote. Catherine? Paul's made the motion, so you're a yes. Dennis?
Yes.
Then Nia?
Yep.
Melinda?
Yep.
Kate? And I'm good too. All right, so those are in the record. Thank you. And I think that's it. I don't have
Peter?
any other. Yes. Dennis.
Can I bring up one more thing that not for discussion for tonight, but just so we don't forget about it? I think that at a meeting we had, it may have been the last one, there was some concern about the fact there's no teeth, and if people don't comply with what with our recommendation and move ahead and do what they want, I think we ought to explore that with the town. I don't know if it's with the town manager or with its planning first. But is there any way for us to put more teeth into our decisions and to make sure they comply? It may not be, but I think it's worth a discussion at some point.
Okay.
I know we have a lot on our plate now, but down the line
Okay.
at some point, so we don't forget about it.
I did add that to the FAQ. I just answered the question, what are the penalties? I mean, first is the letter cycle. You're notified. If you can correct it, great. If you've not, you need to make an application. If it's not corrected, the letter is appended to the property record, I believe, or through the building department. And then it does say technically it's a misdemeanor punishable by a fine to violate the Historic Districts Act. Now, that's just words, but enforcement is always, of course, another issue because, you know, bank parking lot downtown, Exhibit A.
The chain from hell.
So there is a,
That's
so
bad.
we can fine individuals if they don't, or they can be fined by the town if they
It
don't.
does say punishable by a fine. Now, the act, if you go and read the act, it says something like before legal proceedings by the town. I mean, it's actually more draconian than I thought was appropriate for this group. Because it really would take an act by the select board, I think. I think Jane's here, but I can't remember exactly. But I think you're right, Dennis. Why don't we, that's another just a thing to clarify. What are our teeth, if you will?
Yeah.
And can we actually follow through? I think actually what it does, as in my estimation, is it punts it back to the building department. Because they're
Peter, do you want me to look into that?
If you would, Jane, that would be great.
Great. I'll be happy to.
I mean, we could also call the building department because they're the ones that are the enforcers, I think. You know, if something has to be taken down. Or can y'all remind me when there was that whole kerfuffle, it was just as I was joining 6 years ago, the developer who had to take the roof down.
Yep.
How was that enforced? I mean, did you just not approve the application?
Right.
Right.
And then they sued the commission and the town.
Right. And then we didn't approve the application until they agreed to bring the roof down and redesign it.
At which time then they turned around and sued the town, right?
I don't remember any suit.
Oh, yes.
Was there
definitely.
suit?
Yes.
Faulty memory. Yeah.
All the commissioners
No,
were
first
named.
of all, what happened was we denied the application.
Okay.
As it was built, because remember it was already built way too high. And then they sued us. And then we had a meeting with they brought their lawyers. It was a pretty nasty meeting, but basically we said if they brought the roof down, we would approve it.
Okay.
You know, that's the shortened version.
I think you're right, Nia. There's been a couple of cases, not recently, when we went. What has happened is we've gone to arbitration on almost every case that I've seen like this, and we've come to some resolution.
Yeah.
That satisfied both parties.
Right.
That's what, and that's basically what happened, right, Nia, on Lexington Road. Yeah.
And the reality is the town has our backs. If we say something,
they provide the lawyer and they
Yeah,
provide the support. You know, exactly.
Yes.
I mean, some commissioners are more upset at seeing their name in a lawsuit than others, but you know, Paul would not be upset because he sees his name in papers like that all the time.
Hopefully on the right side.
Right, of course. Okay, well, but I think that's another good thing to clarify. So anyway.
A lot to clarify.
All right. So it gives us something to look forward to every 2 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe what I'll do is not to overwhelm you all, because I actually think the guidelines are probably in pretty good shape. Maybe it's just the sort of the mandate.
The mandate's most important.
Yeah, the front matter is what we really need to look
Just
at.
read that, and then maybe we have our list of 3, 4, 5 topics that we want to clarify, starting with the creation or expansion of districts, the things we've been talking about tonight, and then we can just knock one off each meeting, ideally.
That's good. If we can do that.
Okay. Well, gosh, another meeting has gone by. My hair is that much longer.
That much whiter.
I'm learning the words to Hamilton very slowly. Okay. Anything else, Heather? Are we good? How's Heather Gill and the baby? Any news? Just getting bigger.
Counting down the days, or grasping on to her final days.
When is she coming back?
I believe the 8th of March. So,
Oh, that's soon. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
It probably
she doesn't have
flew
to
by
really
for
leave.
you, Heather.
Or not.
Yeah. Blink of an eye.
Heather's like, yeah, I can just hear the conversations between you. Like, yeah, I've got 4 kids. None of this is that unique, really. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. It's nice to see you. And
too.
I guess
Thank you,
we'll see
Peter.
you in a couple weeks. Yes.
Okay.
Right. I
All right.
move that we adjourn.
Thank you. The motion to adjourn has been approved. All in favor? I'm
Aye.
just
Aye.
back voting. All right, folks.
Thank
Be well,
you.
stay
Good
safe
night.
and all that good
Good
stuff.
night.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Cheerio.
Thanks,
See
everybody.
you soon.
Care.
Good night.